Have you ever been pushed so far by something so small that you couldn't take it anymore? That was me. And my breaking point wasn't about money or insults or betrayal from a close friend. No, it was something much smaller. Something people laughed at when I mentioned it. A pen. Just a pen. But behind that pen was a whole story of disrespect, arrogance, and the sweetest revenge I've ever pulled off in my life. When I first started at this company, I was the kind of employee who liked to keep things neat. My desk wasn't spotless, but it was organized. A few folders stacked in a corner, my laptop front and center, and on the right side, my little setup, a notepad, and 2 or 3 of my favorite pens. They weren't luxury pens, no Mont Blancs or anything like that, just smooth, reliable rollerballs I had bought with my own money, but I liked them. They made me feel prepared. They were mine. And in an office environment, those little things matter. At first I thought I was just being forgetful. I'd reach for my pen, and it wasn't there. I'd check my bag, my drawer, the break room, nothing. I shrugged it off. Maybe I misplaced it. Maybe it rolled off somewhere. Maybe I lent it to someone and forgot. But then, the pattern started forming. One afternoon, during a team meeting, I glanced over at my coworker. Let's call him Dave. He was scribbling away in his notebook, acting like he was writing down the secrets to the universe. And there it was. A pen. Not just any pen. My pen. Same color. Same model. Same little scratch near the clip I had noticed before. I remember staring at it, my stomach twisting. Wait, is that mine? The logical side of my brain tried to calm me down. Relax. It could just be the same brand. Lots of people use this pen. But deep down, I knew. That was no coincidence. Over the next few weeks, it happened again and again. My pens would vanish, and Dave, like clockwork, would magically have the exact same kind. Sometimes, even with the same little marks that proved they'd once belonged to me. Now, you need to understand something about Dave. He wasn't just any coworker. He was the kind of guy who made the office less enjoyable the moment he walked in. He had this arrogant smirk, like he was always one step ahead of everyone else. He cracked jokes during serious conversations, talked over people in meetings, and treated small acts of disrespect like they were some sort of sport. If he took your chair by mistake, he wouldn't apologize. He'd laugh about it. If someone brought snacks, he'd grab the biggest piece first, claiming he deserved it because he worked harder. So the pen thing? It wasn't just about the pen. It was about him, about his complete disregard for anyone else's space, effort, or respect. Some people might roll their eyes at this point. It's just a pen. Why are you so pressed about it? But here's the thing. In an office, those small acts of theft add up. Every missing pen felt like another reminder that my space wasn't mine, that my things weren't safe, that Dave could just take what he wanted, and I was powerless to stop him. And the worst part? Nobody else seemed to notice. To everyone else, Dave was just that guy. A little annoying, but harmless. But I noticed, and every time I saw him spinning my pen in his fingers, grinning like he owned it, something inside me twisted tighter and tighter. The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning. I had an important task to finish, a report due by noon. I sat down at my desk, ready to dive in, reach for my pen, and it was gone. Again. I felt this flash of anger, hot and immediate. My chest tightened, my hands curled into fists. I actually muttered under my breath, "You've got to be kidding me." And when I looked up, there was Dave across the room, twirling a pen between his fingers. My pen. He caught me looking and smirked like he knew exactly what he'd done. That was it. The final straw. That evening, after work, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I replayed the moment over and over, him smirking, me fuming silently, the imbalance of it all. I knew I couldn't just confront him. People like Dave thrive on confrontation. He'd laugh it off, deny it, maybe even make me look paranoid in front of everyone else. Number. I needed something better. Something that would hit him where it hurt, his ego, something subtle, clever, and impossible to laugh off. And that's when I stumbled upon it. On my way home, I stopped by a little novelty store. Shelves stacked with prank items, gag gifts, and joke toys. And there, hanging on a rack, was a small pack of pens labeled, "Disappearing ink. Watch your words fade away." I picked them up, turning them over in my hand. My heart actually sped up as a grin spread across my face. This was it. This was the perfect plan. The next morning, I walked into the office early, earlier than usual. I placed 3 of the disappearing ink pens neatly on my desk, right where I normally kept my real ones. They looked identical.
Smooth black casing, shiny clips. Nobody would suspect a thing. Then I sat back and waited. By 9:30, the office was buzzing with the usual chatter. Keyboards clicking, coffee mugs clinking, phones ringing. And right on cue, Dave strolled in late, of course, like he always did. I watched out of the corner of my eye as he sauntered over to my desk. He did that fake stretch move, pretending to glance around casually. Then his hand darted out, quick as a snake, and one of the pens was gone. He pocketed it like a magician pulling off a trick. And I just sat there, sipping my coffee, my face perfectly neutral. Inside, though, I was electric. The trap was set. That afternoon, we had a big meeting scheduled. Everyone gathered in the conference room, about 12 of us around a long polished table. The manager started the discussion, outlining some new project goals. Everyone opened their notebooks, uncapped their pens, and started jotting down notes. And there was Dave, looking smug as ever, pen in hand, my disappearing ink pen. I watched him carefully, trying not to grin. At first, everything seemed normal. He scribbled away, nodding along, probably pretending to be more engaged than he actually was. But slowly, almost too slowly to notice, the words began to fade. The black ink lightened to gray, then to pale silver, then gone. I'll never forget the look on his face. At first, just mild confusion. He blinked, leaned closer to the page, scribbled harder, pressing the pen down like maybe the issue was with pressure. But the harder he wrote, the faster it disappeared. He frowned, tried flipping the page, scribbled again. Same result. His eyes darted around the table, checking to see if anyone was noticing. Everyone else kept writing, nodding, focused on the manager's words. But Dave was slowly unraveling. Meanwhile, I was fighting my own battle, trying not to laugh. My lips pressed together so tightly they hurt. My shoulders trembled with the effort to keep still. Inside, though, I was soaring. Weeks of frustration, disrespect, and powerlessness. All of it was melting away with every fading word on Dave's notebook page. For once, I was in control. Dave's frown deepened. He tapped the pen against his notebook, then against the table. He scribbled faster now, short, frantic words, only to watch them vanish before his eyes. At first, he tried to play it cool. A quick cough, a casual lean back in his chair. But then the panic started to bleed through. His forehead creased, his jaw tightened, and his eyes kept darting back and forth between the fading page and the people around him. Nobody else noticed. Everyone else was still jotting down notes, engaged in the meeting. To them, it was just another boring corporate update. But to Dave, it was a nightmare unfolding in slow motion. About halfway through the meeting, our manager glanced at Dave. "Dave, what do you think about this approach?" Normally, this was Dave's moment to shine. He loved these little spotlights, jumping in with half-baked insights, interrupting others, trying to look like the smartest guy in the room. But not today. Today, Dave froze. He glanced down at his notebook. Blank. Completely blank. Then back up at the manager. His mouth opened, then closed. His cheeks turned red. He stammered, fumbling with the pen. I lost my train of thought." The manager raised an eyebrow. "All right, moving on." And just like that, the moment slipped away. Dave sank back into his chair, visibly rattled. For the first time, his smug confidence cracked. For the rest of the meeting, Dave barely wrote a thing. He kept flipping pages, scribbling test words, staring as they vanished into nothing. At one point, he even shook the pen like that would magically fix the problem. I sat across from him, biting the inside of my cheek so hard I thought I might draw blood. My shoulders shook with suppressed laughter. And in my head, the thought repeated, "This is it. This is justice. When the meeting finally ended, everyone gathered their things and filed out. Dave lingered behind, flipping through his notebook like a man desperate for answers. I walked past him, calm and casual, my heart pounding with the thrill of victory. As I left the room, I caught one last glimpse of him. Head bowed, brow furrowed, staring at his blank pages like they had personally betrayed him. I almost burst out laughing right then and there. Later that afternoon, I overheard whispers near the break room. "Did you see Dave in the meeting today?" "Yeah, he looked off. Not his usual self." "Did he even contribute anything?" "I don't think he said a word." The cracks in his reputation had begun. The next morning, I arrived at the office early again. My disappearing ink pens were still neatly placed on my desk, untouched. Dave strolled in a little later than usual, but this time, something was different. No cocky smirk, no loud jokes. He just walked to his desk quietly and sat down. And for the first time since I'd started at this company, he didn't borrow anything from me. Part of me expected him to say something, to confront me, maybe accuse me of messing with him, or ask if I'd noticed anything weird about those pens. But he didn't. Instead, he avoided eye contact. When I walked by, he shuffled papers or pretended to be busy. It was like the experience had rattled him so badly that he didn't even know how to bring it up. And honestly, that was even better. The silence was its own victory. Over the next week, the change in Dave was undeniable. He stopped hovering around other people's desks, stopped pocketing random supplies, stopped twirling borrowed pens like trophies. He even started bringing in his own pack of cheap pens, tossing them carelessly onto his desk like a man who had learned his lesson the hard way. Every time I saw those pens, I smiled. Quietly, secretly, satisfied. Nobody knew what had happened. Nobody suspected a thing. To everyone else, Dave had just calmed down. Maybe he'd matured. Maybe he was embarrassed after his awkward silence in that meeting. But I knew the truth. The truth was that one tiny, clever act of revenge had shifted the entire balance. It wasn't just about the pens anymore. It was about reclaiming control, about taking back my space, my dignity, my peace of mind. Every time I picked up one of my pens and found it exactly where I'd left it, I felt a quiet triumph, a reminder that I wasn't powerless, that I had fought back, not with shouting, not with confrontation, but with creativity. And that victory tasted sweeter than anything else. Looking back, I realized something important. Revenge doesn't always have to be loud. It doesn't have to be destructive or cruel. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is the kind that leaves no scars, just lessons. And for Dave, that lesson was crystal clear. Respect other people's things. Because sometimes what looks like an easy steal might just be the setup for your own humiliation.